cars and they all black. Got 4 bras and they all that. We call that ballin'. Doing this is my calling. Flow is so appalling. My phone.
What's up? I'm Sal.
I'm RJ. This is Dos.
And Tres. This week we're continuing our biggest questions leading into training camp. This week we're going to go into the NFC West, starting with the Seahawks. So for the Seahawks offense, the biggest question for them is their offensive line. They had a very subpar offensive line last year, really rotating guys in and out depending on different guys with not much experience. So their best guy is their center, Justin Britt. I'll start off with the good. And he showed some promise last year. And then another good thing, in the second round they drafted Ethan Pochik out of LSU. The kind of confusing thing is that Pochik was primarily a center too, so now you got 2 centers. And then the rest of the roster consists of basically a bunch of guys that are better guards than tackles. So your left tackle and right tackle are big question marks. Jermaine Ifedi, the first round pick that they spent on him, I mean, he played right guard last year, did all right. He'll probably be the starter there. They picked up Luke Jokel, who played left guard. He was drafted to play left tackle by the Jaguars, but didn't really perform well there. And then at left tackle last year, who they had starting was George Fant. I think last year was his first year ever playing football at all. He was a basketball player before this. He played terrible. So really their whole offensive line consists of a bunch of guards and centers, no true tackles. So I don't think that they're going to perform much better this year. And Russell Wilson, you got to hope that he doesn't get injured, because really all they're depending on is his running ability and being able to evade sacks.
Yeah, at the beginning of last year, that Miami game where he got really beat up, and that just prolonged his injury as far as leading on to the rest of the season, where he couldn't really get over that injury that he had in that first game. And I could see, honestly, the same thing starting off this season. Not that I want it to happen, but I mean, it's realistic. That's more realistic than him actually staying back there and staying healthy.
On defense, their question is, are Richard Sherman's comments going to affect that defense, like the psyche? Because really, he was the vocal leader of the defense, because, well, he's vocal. And that has continued on into this year. And he had those incidents like bubbling up this year, like fighting with the offensive coordinator, getting in his teammates' face. And now it's coming out that he did ask to be traded. They explored that. No one could really meet their needs, I guess, for a trade. And then it's coming out that he doesn't really like Russell Wilson. I mean, we don't know how much true that is, but there's at least a strained relationship with that report coming out. So how is Sherman going to really affect this defense? It seems like relationship-wise, it's kind of crumbling apart, and their performance wasn't on par with what the Legion of Boom was whenever they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know this past season there was a couple of sideline incidents that you could see that the tension was really building, and then now it's spilled off into this news that has filtered out through this offseason. And as far as Sherman goes, yeah, he is a really vocal guy, and I can see him being the way that he is, especially after that Super Bowl call, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago now. And I can understand him still having that grudge, you could say, especially calls this past year that really resembled that type of call that was in the Super Bowl that cost them the Super Bowl, not running the ball on the 1-yard line. And it's just, when that happens, it's just real lingering on the mind every single time you're as a defensive player just watching the offense, seeing what's going to happen, or what are they going to do now, what's going to, I wonder what's going to happen here.
What I'll say about that is that Sherman, in the immediate future right now, he's going to be a big part whether they make a run to the Super Bowl again. So the whole team, offense, defense, whoever has a grudge, they need to get on the same page so they can, reach that potential of getting to the Super Bowl again.
The Arizona Cardinals, the next team that we're going to cover, Carson Palmer, that's the main question right here. Is he going to be the player that he was back in 2015? In my opinion, I don't really see it happening. I mean, I know he even contemplated really retiring. Nobody really knew until he just kind of finally came out and said it or whatever. Maybe Cardinals fans might want to hope that it does happen, but really Fitzgerald's really on the back end of his career, and the predominant player that they really only have is Johnson behind him. And I understand that run game really helps out a lot, but Johnson does a lot in the passing game, and you can't really have him doing everything all the time. The amount of touches that accumulates throughout the season just from him is a lot, and it takes a toll on him.
Yeah, Carson's getting up there in age. I don't see him getting back up to 15 level, just because the defenses are catching up to the scheme too. And really, I mean, like he said, Fitzgerald's getting up there in age. They didn't really draft anybody to kind of supplant him, which is what we thought was going to happen. I think what their plan was to go and get a quarterback, which is why everybody tried jumping in front of them. I mean, everybody was trying to get in front of them, which they did. I mean, Watson was taken and Mahomes was taken a lot earlier than we expected. But hopefully Carson can at least get them into the playoffs. I don't think it's likely, but for Cardinals fans, hopefully For the Cardinals defense, how are they going to handle losing Calais Campbell and Tony Jefferson? Like, as far as Tony Jefferson goes, he really had a good year last year. You might want to say that because he was in a contract year and he did get paid by the Ravens. But you drafted Budda Baker, and he can probably fill in Tony Jefferson's role. But then you still have an opening at CB2, which was a big weakness for the Cardinals last year. So where are you going to play Baker? I mean, there's going to be a hole on the defense either way. And then with Tyrann Mathieu's health, I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen there. And Calais, I feel like he was the real leader of the defense. Patrick Peterson's not a real vocal guy, but Calais like really solidified them. They're losing a big leader in the locker room there.
The next team is 49ers. This is a team up and coming that John Lynch and Shanahan want to be able to get the roster to where they want it to be. And for 2 or 3 years, they didn't say, nothing's going to happen now. There's still questions to ask even when it's a team like this. As far as Shanahan goes, I don't think he has the quarterback there that he wants to have. Obviously, they didn't get Kirk, which I still think Shanahan would love to have him. The weapons around still on the offensive side of the ball. They lost Smith. He wasn't really too much. They have Curley out of TCU, who's predominantly just a punt return guy, special teams guy, and a slot guy. And I feel like they could have, if Carlos Hyde could get back up to what we really think that he can be, that they could have a good running game. I know Carlos Hyde has a lot of potential out of Ohio State, and he's showing lots of flashes, hopefully for 49ers fans, that they can actually have a run game, hopefully for whatever quarterback's back there.
Right now, Brian Hoyer would be their starting quarterback. I think Kirk is still in the cards in the future. I guess what we're trying to say is, offensive-wise, don't expect to be that much more competitive, but we like where they're going. I mean, Shanahan is a great offensive mind. Lynch really had a good draft, so they have pieces going forward that can really lead them to success, which leads into the defense. Reuben Foster, they drafted him in the first round, got him at the end of the first round. Great pick. The thing is, on the defense, is he going to be able to, get some snaps in this year? He had that shoulder issue and had surgery, but it's not looking too good as far as him seeing the playing field. And I think between him and Navarro Bowman, I mean, that would make a really good pairing and possibly take that defense to the next level, because they've invested a lot of picks into that defense. This year again was Solomon Thomas. I mean, they have 3 first-round defensive linemen. So their defensive-wise, I think Lynch is liking what he sees, and they'll be able to mold into something great.
Yeah, I think the front seven could really mold into something great. Hopefully, Reuben Foster can be a Patrick Willis reincarnated. Hopefully for 49ers fans. After they get the front seven solidified, which I think they are going to be with their past couple draft picks, especially Solomon and Reuben this year, just stirring up the secondary, I think after that, your defense is pretty much going to be pretty good for the next couple of years. Let's see what happens this year, though.
So with the Rams, how is Sean McVay on the offensive side of the ball? How is Sean McVay going to develop Goff? So Goff actually did get into the game, towards the end of the year last year, and
finally,
it didn't look good. I mean, it didn't look like he was worth the first overall pick. But I mean, they're bringing in a new offensive mind from the Redskins and Shanahan system with Todd Gurley there. I mean, they can get a power run game going, but they did that last year, and everybody just keyed on that. They don't have too many weapons either, so I'm just interested to see how much Goff can develop, and hopefully he doesn't suffer any injuries. So maybe, in the next 2 or 3 years, which is basically the window for any rookie quarterback now, he can show the potential for them to, move forward with him.
Yeah, I don't know if so much you would count last year's season as his full rookie year, considering Fisher and everything.
I'm not fucking going 7-9, or 8-8, or 9-7, okay? Or 10-6 for that matter.
How he wouldn't start him and stuff. I would say this coming year is the next half of his rookie year, and I really do hope they let him loose and just play free. I felt like with Fisher last year that there really wasn't much of that, especially because he didn't get in there till way later on in the season, and hopefully he can utilize Kupp and those guys.
So for the Rams defense, they just switched to 3-4. Wade Phillips coming in as the defensive coordinator had great success with the Broncos defense. But the thing is, are the players that they currently have on the team going to fit that scheme? Starting with Aaron Donald. He is a pass rushing, just dominant force on the defensive line and defensive tackle position, but you're going to make him play nose guard and, possibly shift into defensive end, but I don't think that's fully utilizing all of his potential in that defense. And another guy is Robert Quinn. He's a pass rushing defensive end. You're going to have him playing 3-4 defensive end, a run stuffer, somebody to control the line. That doesn't fit him. And then as far as linebackers go, they don't really have the guys to fit that either. So I don't know how they're going to fill in those gaps, or hopefully the guys can make the transition just from, from past experience and, history. The first year of a transition in a defensive scheme like this, where all the players were so dominant in a 4-3, the first year isn't too good.
Phillips, he has his number one corner like he had in Denver in Tremaine Johnson now. And he has his athletic linebacker, maybe that you could say with Brandon Marshall and Trevathan he had over there in Denver with Alec Ogletree. But as far as the front goes, I don't know how he's going to shape it out, like with Quinn or whatever, because there's not really that Von Miller type of guy. I'm not talking about as far as caliber. I'm talking about a guy that has the fast twitch that can rush the passer and still compensate and play linebacker. Quinn and those guys, they're just mainly just 4-3 guys. Just put your hand on the ground and rush the passer. So I'm not too sure how it's going to work out. I know Grandma Phillips, that's what we called him when he was head coach of the Cowboys. But he's a damn good defensive coordinator. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Definitely a better defensive coordinator than head coach.
Damn right.
Well, that wraps up the NFC West look into their biggest offseason and training camp questions. If you like this video and you want to see more, go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe at Dos and Tres on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you want to be a super subscriber, hit that bell button so every time we put out a video, you'll get a notification. And follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Dos and Tres YT.
Peace.
Okay, it's rap packed to my pulse flat. We keep it real, no false rap. I got 4 cars and they all black. Got 4 bras and they all that. We call that ballin'. Doing this is my calling. Flow is so up.